Howdy small fries, and welcome back to Cancelled Videos, or videos I'll probably never make. Funnily enough, some of these videos I wrote up, I did end up finally doing. Like the original species course, I finally started that, which was going to be in this video about how I wasn't going to make it, but I did end up start making it. So these videos aren't so much to say as I'll never make them, so much as I haven't figured out how I'd go about doing it yet. A lot of you said you wanted to do YouTube, and the subject, cancelled videos, is one I don't see other YouTubers talking about. No one really wants to talk about the videos that they don't want to make or can't make. Personally, I don't think that just because you had the idea that you're the best one to execute it. Anyway, let's get started. This one is an original species special, so here are 3 original species videos that I won't make. 1. Lithbound. Lithbound was a massive original species art game that featured almost 50 original species. This is the most I've seen in any game, but last year the game shut down. I believe it was primarily due to a lack of funding. As someone who is running a game, it's very hard to get people to spend money. It's got this weird balance of you can't cut off too much because it makes people upset and they won't want to play at all, but you also can't let them do too much or else you won't make anything. So it's a weird balance of too much freedom, not enough freedom. A lot of us artists are more sympathetic people and are also people who struggle with money too. So a lot of us artists and, well, I guess creators in my situation, a lot of us creators don't want to milk you like a cow, but made of money. We want you to have fun and we want you to enjoy the game. So a lot of times our methods of monetization aren't invasive enough in order to actually make enough money to keep the game going. But unfortunately, if you don't support the game, the owners can't afford to keep it running. I currently don't even make the 50 USD a month I need to keep my game, Nomchromancy, running. I run it entirely out of my own pocket. And, I have a pretty large following. I have almost 300 people playing my game. I have almost 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. A lot of these games start with people with much smaller followings, and they still struggle to keep their games going. So if I can't do it, it makes you wonder just how successful you need to be or how huge you need to be in order to have these things work. But thankfully, I have wonderful volunteers who make running it much more viable. The economy has also been steadily getting worse, but this is a reminder that if you can only spare even just $1 a month, it makes a huge difference. Lithbound was started during around the same time as that coughing sickness that if I were to mention it would result in YouTube being weird, and their game lasted through most of it. But you can only run these games for so long. Now the site is gone, and all that remains is snapshots from the Wayback Machine and the articles that I saved pictures of. I think this species died purely because of bad timing. There was drama, as there often is, but I'm not about to read 4 years worth of hate mail on a Tumblr page dedicated to drama associated with that group. But it does seem like a perfect opportunity for me to cover them, right? Digging up a corpse and making it dance for me like a weekend at Bernie's. If I made a video on it, I'd be the only channel with a full history of their species. Unfortunately, with the sheer amount of species in the game and the small lore on them, I ended up making short videos that I thought sucked. This species died because they weren't making money, and people can only operate at a loss for so long. I think it spread itself too thin, personally. I don't think they needed 50 species. These videos, much like the species, were a quantity issue. Think about the show Kitchen Nightmares. What's one of the first things Gordon Ramsay does with a failing restaurant? Besides berating the staff and asking them to clean out their freezer for once. That's right. He gets them to shorten their menu down to just 5 specialties. Usually a chicken dish, beef or lamb or something like that, fish option, and then vegetarian option. He keeps it short and shrimple. When there's too many options, you get choice paralysis. And when a restaurant makes 30 different dishes, it results in longer cook times. If you've ever been to a Mexican restaurant, you know what I'm talking about. Pretty much every Mexican restaurant I've been to is a trifold menu. And it makes it very hard to pick one thing to eat out of the actual 100 options that they have. It's good that they have that many options and that they can provide them reliably, but it makes it hard on the customer to actually pick one specific thing. I think Lithbound made this same mistake. By not focusing on a core central species or a small handful, they spread themselves way too thin. Every one of these species had a quest tied to them to unlock. So where do you start? If you're about to put some hours into drawing them, you might want to be sure that you got the right one. And then you can kind of see where the issue is. As for my videos on Lithbound, they're probably my worst videos. But I don't think I have much to work with. The majority of these species have less than a page's worth of lore. But again, when people make these species games and their original species and stuff like that, they're not making them with the intent of being turned into a Sera proto video. So, you know, it's not their fault that it wasn't built perfectly for YouTube. That's my job, to tweak these things and make them work for YouTube. But if I made them one at a time to fit with how I usually do these kinds of videos, they would only be 3 minutes long. Which, I mean, I've since made 3-minute long species videos. So I did 3 at a time. And people were enthusiastic at first, but then came along the 3rd or 4th video, and there was a noticeable drop-off in viewership and retention. This is because of the sequel effect. The sequel effect is when people refuse to watch the sequel to a movie because they didn't see the entries before it. This happens on YouTube as well. You don't just jump into Northern Lions Binding of Isaac episode number 96, and you sure as hell don't start at episode 1. Who has time to watch all 96 episodes of that when they're each an hour apiece? Maybe I should rename it to the One Piece effect, since it's the same there too. Anyway, 3 videos in, and people stopped watching. I think people were tired of the sheer number of species, and the marvel of these well-designed species wore off very quickly. Being that there were so many, I tried to get out the videos as quickly as possible, and as many as possible, but the difference in quality was obvious even to, y'all, and the series fell off. Also, I was really tired of making the videos. They were not enjoyable to make. Could this work now? Yeah, if I started over, and instead of releasing it in parts, I work on it in the background and release it as one big video. If I release it in parts, people most likely won't care about it, and I'll try to get it done as quickly as possible. The problem with these multi-parters is that the first part is always the strongest. Great title, great thumbnail, great concept. Then, as they go on, the info gets more obscure and uninteresting. Hard to have a good title for Lithbound number 5, but the first part was so perfect. The death of a universe. Will I remake this series? Probably. First, I'll delist all the current episodes that exist, and then I would probably still do it multi-parters, one species at a time, and then I would release them as isolated species, and start off each video with like, this is a species from Lithbound. It's a game that doesn't exist anymore, and then continue in and finish each of the species, and then I'll put them together in a big video where I'll record a new intro and a proper ending. But due to scheduling, I don't see myself ever having the time to make it all one big video immediately as one big video. I would probably do it a multi-parter like I did with Avali. So I'm going to redo these once I catch up on my video backlog and have more time to work on something, quote-unquote new. I'll be doing them one species at a time. Maybe I'll do it in between releases here and there to, inject some original species stuff between the other non-original species stuff that I do. Because I know a lot of you are here for the original species stuff. A lot of you are here for drama. Unfortunately, I don't really do drama anymore. But those videos where I talk about the stories, I feel like that's a good substitute for the drama because no one gets hurt by those. Anyway, I'll be doing them one species at a time, so when that happens, expect a new video about every other day. Number 2. Insert your recommendation here. I know that sounds mean, but don't take this personally. I get a lot of original species recommended to me. I get them on comments, I get them on a submission form, I get them in Discord, I get people messaging me directly on Twitter and Discord, trying to get me to cover specific ones. And then I've also got people who are asking me for, consultations, where I go over their species with them and stuff. And then I've also got people who are trying to pay me to make a video for them. But there's a saying. I can't remember who said it first, but it was something like, people think they know what they want, but once they get it, they realize they didn't. I think I got it from a Brian David Gilbert video, the one about the Castlevania, one about what's the hottest Castlevania creature. Anyway, I can make a video on every single suggested one, but a lot of these species are self-submissions. Although, a lot of these self-submissions aren't ready for release by the owner's admissions. If your species isn't out yet, then there isn't a point in making the video yet. If the video popped off and people wanted to join, but you don't have a community chat or a host for your species, where am I supposed to send all these people? In addition, if you haven't finished your lore or design, how am I supposed to make a video? What am I supposed to talk about? In short, don't recommend your species to me unless they're actually done. There's also the early fame problem. I don't know what the algorithm wants besides drama, but your species could become famous overnight, and while I'd love that paycheck, you might not be ready for that kind of attention. Think of species groups. Hell, anyone who got famous overnight. How often did they lose control of their lives or get their lives ruined? For example, the devs of Garden of Banban. The games are atrocious, but they blew up overnight. The creators couldn't handle the attention or the criticism they received and went on a huge banning spree. I'm sure you can think of other scenarios like child stars like Miley Cyrus, Bieber, or JoJo Siwa spiraling after they got out of the limelight and were adults and able to make their own decisions for themselves. A lot of them, you know, they weren't ready to be famous when they got famous, and that's what I worry about. Is I try to use this platform for good, and I don't want to promote you and have you not be ready, and then you get swallowed in the coming tide, and I'm just sitting there on the beach like, well, there's nothing I could have done about that. Even if it was ready for release, there isn't a guarantee that they'll be made into a video. I have a lot of species I want to cover, and I have a list of them. Some take priority based on whether I think they'd make a good video or not, and some, like Meep, I thought were so interesting and fun that they could skip the line. I take recommendations, but not every species is one that makes a good video. So here's some tips on what I look for. Art. There needs to be at least 5 pictures of the species. This should be very easy for you. Anatomy, ref sheets, pics of them vibing and chilling, and things like that. I need pictures to make the video interesting. Lore. There absolutely 100% needs to be lore. The only thing that keeps me from making videos about original species is lore. If there is no lore, I will not make a video on them. If there's too little lore, I will not make a video on them. If there isn't any lore, the video is just me saying, "Look at how neat they are, isn't that cute?" And then the video ends. Community. This can be a Discord, Telegram group, or social media. There needs to be a place where viewers can go to in order to learn more about your species. Not everyone's a big fan of constantly rewinding my videos. I'm a big fan of that because it means more cheddar, but I'm not a big fan. But the audience might not be a big fan of having to rewind to learn more about your species every time. I am not a substitute for having a website or a community. Speaking of which, host. A website where all your information is hosted. No one likes having to join a Discord just to learn about your species. Seriously, no one wants to join a Discord just to learn about your species. It's annoying. Stop doing this. I recommend WordPress, Wix, and Card for hosting. All of them are very cheap. I think my last WordPress payment was $22 for a whole year for the site. But they're all free. All the ones I named are free. WordPress, Wix, and Card are all free and can be used for free. And if you can post to Twitter, you can make a site. I even have a stream of me using Wix that you can use as a tutorial to make your own species on Wix. The best example of the bare minimum I look for would be in the Nijinu video, which you can find on the end card. If you're missing any of these, then either the video won't be very good, or the video won't be useful to you because you don't have a place for fans to visit. Now, if the species isn't yours and you recommend it to me, then admit one of two fates. It's either added to my list or not. Usually they're not added because the species doesn't have enough going on with it that I can make a video out of it. Most closed species that are made for adopts, and those are a prime example of species that I can't make videos on. Most of these don't have lore, or I can't find the lore because they posted it at one point a long time ago and they never updated it again or never brought it up again because it's not important, because it's an adopt species that exists only to make money. If you're coming to me to make a video for the species, it's probably because you can't find the lore for it. Like with Skull Dogs, while the video was good and I did enjoy making it and it was an interesting video, it did have zero payoff. The people who watched that video are in the exact same place at the end of the video as they were at the beginning of the video. And that blows. Another example of a species like this that I scrapped is CC cats. I can't find any lore on them. Or the lore that I do find, it's not enough. I can obviously make these videos work, but I have to do something to riff off of them. Even if there is nothing about the species lore-wise, I can make a video of them still, but it's going to be short. But I might be able to find an angle, like comparing CC cats to one of its clones. 3. Sergals. Every now and then I'll be recommended an original species that is a good choice for a video. Plenty of art, good lore, some history, lots of memes, a little bit of not so annoying drama. The perfect mix. This is sort of the case with Sergals. I've known about Sergals since the beginning. They're as commonplace as protogens, duchies, and things like that. But upon researching them, I found out that they have an absolutely massively huge, gargantuan amount of media about them. Sergals come from a manga series by Mick Ono called Violus. It's 150 pages long so far. It's still going, which isn't that long, but I'd still want to read the whole thing before making the video. Then we had the wikis to go over with regional variants, and of course the influence of Sergals within the furry fandom itself. I looked to see if there were other videos about them that I could draw inspiration from, but most of them are less than 10 minutes long, which means there is absolutely no way that those videos went over them in detail, because there is way more than 10 minutes worth of lore there. Which is another reason why I started making these original species videos in the first place. I knew that if I made this video on them, it would have to be my magnum opus, as pretentious as that sounds. I wouldn't be able to release this in parts. I would need to cover nearly everything, and it would have to be the video people point to when introducing them to new people. It couldn't be like Dutch Angel Dragons or Amp Waves, videos that are standard Sera's Things videos. It would need to be a prime example of my best work. I kept putting it off to improve my skills at making these videos. I did the same thing with Avali. It was another video that I said I'd have to wait to make. Avali has a very strong start and slowly winds down, but I don't think it's a legacy-defining video like I want Sergals to be. But that's it for now. Another 3 videos that might never leave drafts or haven't even been drafted. Let me know if you're interested in any of these. I'm sure a few of them are cool. Oh, and hey, if I get more Patreons, the ideas that I've mentioned in the past that rely on funding might be a little bit more doable for me. So consider joining my Patreon, like these fine furries. You can join for as little as $1. Thanks for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Here's the patrons and members. Rask, Ver, WildKitty69, Beef, Bait, Cryptid Artha, Sly, Colorado Blue, Vaderson, Linky, Kit Chimeras, Blackjack, Malding Brick, and Copyleft. Thanks again to my Shrimp Simps, and if you want to join them, you can do so on my Patreon or become a member on YouTube. I think both are available for as little as $1. That's pretty cool. Remember what I said about $1 earlier? $1 makes a huge difference. Please, I'm so tired of eating ramen.